Today we have one of my favorite people, Lothian, and once you see her astrology, she has a YouTube channel probably with 130,000 followers. She's very popular, she's irreverent, and I absolutely love her. We go way back, and I'm not going to say a lot about that, but I will say that tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., it's tomorrow Saturday? I'm doing an intention setting ceremony, and you can still join if you go over to the I Am Symposium and get the inner sanctuary pass. And it's about planting resilient seeds. So many things I see on Facebook right now. Come do manifesting ceremonies with me. I'm thinking, like, New Year's is when you're supposed to be hibernating. Let's plant those seeds deep into the belly of the earth, and then the seeds will grow when conditions are favorable and right. It doesn't mean you don't set the intention, but I don't know that we do a whole visioning thing and try to bring it out into the world. It's like pulling a broom instead of pushing. It's going against nature. I invite you to come with me for this deepening of your seeds, looking ahead for the year, but in a nature-based way.
First of all, I want to reiterate what Renee just said about the sort of fallow and interior and quiet space and the still space that this time of year is about. And it really isn't flamboyant and the summer solstice. Hey, look at my manifestation. And so in astrology, it's the same thing. It's Capricornian time. It's connected to the darkness and the winter in the Northern Hemisphere. 30% of Earth's landmass is in the Northern Hemisphere. And so this cosmology is also symbolic. It's light and dark. And in the winter, as we are here now in the northern part of the world, it's when the light is the least of it. There's the least light. Like I'm in Canada, it's dark at 4 p.m. and it's night already in Vancouver, Canada. It really is what you said. I really love that you brought our attention to that. It's like planting those deeper seeds underneath the soil of your being. And at some point, in the perfect timing, those intentions that are viable seeds that are meant to go all the way through to fertility and growth and breaking through the soil will come to pass. So there's a bit of a trust factor involved in that kind of time of year to hope for what you want, plant them, and also trust the process. So I want to reiterate that because we've got an amazing year in 2026 with some very rare events that are occurring. I'm going to share those with you and have you apply them to your life the best you can without being an astrologer per se, by understanding what I always call cycle repetition and pattern recognition. Astrology is simply that. It's looking at God's clock and watching it move and looking over the lifetime at the patterns that are repeating. And every one of these patterns can repeat that I'm about to describe, these 5 cycles that are happening this year and very rare. Relatively rare. These can repeat under different conditions. So there's not identical. So don't say, oh no, Lori said just like back when. That's when my whole life fell apart. There are other factors in the sky that make it a little bit softer or a little bit different, like a kaleidoscope. Everything's moving. So don't fear that, but also know that every cycle has its own levels of expression. We can always fall into the shadow of any particular story in the astrological mirror. The sky is a mirror of life. And that can be from the lowest to the highest level. For a simple example, Neptune can be addiction, drug addiction, escapism, and mental illness, like delusional consciousness. And it can also be enlightenment. So there's a vast range of expression. And the more spiritually inclined you are to inspect your shadow, to work with your spiritual life energies, to consult the divine, then the more likely you'll express this in the most positive way. So again, it's really up to you if you want to express this stuff in the shadow terrain because you have not dealt with your undone childhood wounds, past life karma, whatever it is. I'm just saying. Or if you've gone through some of your own interior life and you're on the path of self-awareness, then these transits can be extraordinary and powerful and positive. So we're going to start with the biggest story of the year. And that's going to be that we have a conjunction between 2 planets, the god of reality and the god of fantasy, Neptune and Saturn. They don't really have a lot in common, and they will co-join in our sky every 34 or 5 years, 36 years in a different sign. But what's happening this year is very special. They're coming together on the 20th of February at 0 degrees of Aries. They haven't done this for 6,000 years at this degree. For these 2 planets to co-join in Aries at this degree is incredibly intense energy, because 0 is about fresh starts and new beginnings. It's a world axis. It will change the world. And it also connects to the idea of innocence. And it's like the Fool in the Tarot, the card of that spirit playing in matter. And if you have the sort of spiritual muscles in place for this energy, what may happen on February 20th, and you'll feel it rolling through the entirety of 2026, is a most auspicious new beginning in the ability for you to create something brand new and fresh in your life, 0 Aries, but also have it become like a dream come true. The visionary imaginal realm of Neptune meets the concrete edifice of Saturn. And in order for that to work in your life, you also have to recognize that there's a potential for some disappointment here as well, because sometimes this can play out as something I want, I'm not going to get. That can happen, but it's not at the expense of something I need that I really want, if I just suspect it deeper, coming into form. So it's a manifestation signature, and I'll probably do a webinar on that on my own crew, because you can try to harness the best of it. And it depends on your sign, because I can't teach astrology today. Just know that each of us is born with a sun sign. So, of course, any of you Aries suns are really feeling it. And we can go angular, which means Capricorn suns, Cancer suns, Libra suns, and Aries suns are going to have the most rocket fuel from this energy. Okay. And they're going to have major life changes because of it, especially in career, home, relationship, and sense of self. But if you know your rising sign, the same thing will apply. If your rising sign is Aries or Capricorn, Cancer or Libra, these are cardinal, and they're being, again, rocket fueled by this story. And no matter what your rising sign is, you have one place in your natal chart's made of 12 pie slices. Like someone took a pie of reality and cut it into 12 slices. And those 12 slices are called houses. And those houses are parts of your reality: the house of marriage, the house of home, the house of children. And wherever that Aries house is, you're going to find there's an incredible awakening of some massive change that can be a dream come true. Okay. So each of you will have a different place in the sky where this goes, where it's happening. And I will say one last thing about this magical time. Although these two planets are coming together in Aries and really acute or tightly connected to each other in Aries, in the year of 2026, beginning on February 20th, but also there's going to be a sense of these two planets playing together for 3 years until 2028. I think it's early spring, when they're still together before Saturn leaves the space. So it's also, when I talk about it, I want you to think about, what can I make real? What dreams can I make real? What can I lean into where my visionary power can actualize and form in that whole sign Aries part of my chart? And again, some of you may have your ascendant there, your rising sign. Some of you have your sun there, like I do. It's going to be a very powerful time for you. And again, use it or lose it, because it's not coming back in our lifetime. Use it or lose it. Okay, there's no cycle repetition there. I don't think any of us was alive for that 6,000 years ago version, but there was a similar thing that occurred in 1700 and 1300. Again, none of us were alive for that. We can't compare notes. It's a first time in a life, and it's exciting. Number 2, and she gave me as an example, this is my writing house, right? And I've always wanted to finally write like one of my 5 books. So this will be me getting that dream to become real. And even this morning, just before we began, an agent named Eileen in New York's been pestering me for 2 years to get down and write my astrology book. So that's probably where this will go for me, right? Concrete reality, visionary power, make it real. Okay, number 2. Okay, so Venus is a goddess of love and money, and Mars is a god of change, decisions, and actions, making a choice, bifurcating. I'm going to the left or right. You can't travel 2 roads at once. Mars helps you choose which one. Venus says, what do I desire in life? And Mars says, let me help you choose the path that brings the desire to you. Okay, but Venus prefers pleasures, right? Love, beauty, money. But she says, here's a desire, and Mars says, I'll choose the path that brings you the desire. These two planets are collaborating in our sky in a way we haven't seen since 1994. So this is really good for all of us to compare our life back then, because here's how it works. Back in 1994, this would be January of 1994, Mars was late December for Mars, like the last couple of days of December for Mars, and early January, mid-January for Venus and Mars both entered one place in the heavens called Capricorn. They both joined with the sun, called a solar reset or cazimi. And then they recalibrated your life for the following timeframes. Mars says, I'm recalibrating your life 1994 and 1995. So the entirety of 94 and the entirety of 1995, Mars was trying to help you move in a new direction by choosing and deciding and honoring what Venus wanted to reset for you here as well, because then she did the same thing as Mars shortly after him. And she is in Capricorn, where she's very resourceful, but it depends on where Capricorn falls in your sky. So I'm going to give you some general interpretations because your experience of living through 1994 to 1995, the end of 95, those 2 whole 24 months of time, is going to happen again. It's going to start up for you right away on the conjunction of Venus on January 6th to the Sun, and then Mars on January 9th to the Sun in the sign of Capricorn. So that means that all of 2026 and all of 2027 will feel a lot like all of 1994 and all of 1995. Capricorn can be for you Capricorn rising and sun, or maybe moon. You're having a massive recalibration of reality. You're going into the thick of it. And of course, the cardinal signs, which will be the Cancer, Aries, and Libra, sun and moon and rising, also have a massive intensity around the energy because they're square to this event or angular. All signs will be impacted. This is where you need to know which pie slice Capricorn is in your chart. Children, money, career, family, siblings, whatever, because that's where this change will happen. So for those of you who know your astrology, use the whole sign house system. You'll be confused if you don't. You have a free gift from me on the asteroids, advanced and basics, and it's a lot of fun. But there's a tutorial in that gift I'm giving to you that allows you to cast your chart in whole sign houses and teaches you how using free online software. And you'll need a birth time for your ascendant. But what I would mention about this idea that I'm giving you is that it is always similar, but never perfectly the same. So if your life was a hell and going to hell back then, don't always think it's going to be identical. It's core themes connected to desire and choices over 2 years. So I will use me as an example. So my sun is in Aries, and sun represents one's career in general, right? Moon represents home and nest, but the sun is your true self. And so my sun, my true self, and my career purpose focus, Aries, sun, was hit by this conjunction of both Mars and Venus with the sun in 1994. At that time, I was in a reporting job. I was a newspaper reporter. And I also was enrolled to go to school in 1994 in a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. In that 1 year that transpired, I quit my reporting job, and I also quit my Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. That sounds terrible, right? Lori's life is falling apart in 1994. You've got 2 years for this to unfold. In 1995, I changed my career to a whole new path and became a psychic reader, doing psychic readings for almost a decade. And I loved that career path. And it really was something that made me thrive, and I could work from home and raise my children. And it was like the reporting job was driving me nuts because I couldn't take care of my kid at the time, one kid. And it was a perfect change, but it was made by desire. Venus, what do you desire in your career that's going to bring you joy and fulfillment? That's Venus, and money. And then Mars is, let me help you choose to make it happen. So that's a good example of how it unfolds. At first, it could feel like something's falling away because Mars likes to cut, snip, and sever. And you're like, stop cutting that stuff out of my life. What do you mean my marriage sucks? Or, what do you mean I'm supposed to let my kids move out of the house? I mean, Mars can quit things in your life for you, but the Venus is promising something better will come. So those 2 years that are going to unfold for us all are connected to very much the 94, 95 themes as well. So that's the second thing. The third thing is the new eclipse cycle. So eclipses happen to occur in 18 to 20 year cycles. There's every 18 and a half years, we begin to have eclipses through 2 signs. And I want you to think of a dumbbell, one sign and the other sign opposite it. Like Libra is always opposite Aquarius, for example. So Leo is always opposite Libra is always opposite Aries, and Libra, and today now we're going to move into Aquarius, Leo, they're always opposite each other. So number one, we haven't had eclipses through this new cycle that we're going to be moving into in 2026 and fully embodying in 2027. We'll have 18 months of eclipses in this energy. We haven't felt that energy individually and collectively in this particular way the north node of volume up and expansion and growth in Aquarius, and the volume down, release and surrender south node eclipses in the sign of Leo. We haven't seen this eclipse cycle, okay, in this very same style since calendar year 2008 and 9. I want you to go back and think of your life then, as well as 89 to 91, 1989 to 91. Those are the cycles of change that are back yet again, so we can make some comparisons in our life. Now, clearly, there's an eclipse in February on the 17th in Aquarius, and there's a summer eclipse in Leo, and that's a total solar eclipse on, let's the date of that solar eclipse will be August the 12th at 20 Leo. And the eclipse on the 17th is going to be in February at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So let's say a few things about that, generally speaking. Anyone who's a Leo this summer, right, in Leo, sun, moon, or rising, is going to feel this total solar eclipse because it's got amplitude and magnetism is big. Now, technically, in the ancient tradition, a solar eclipse affects leaders and people in power more than the average Joe. But I wouldn't say that's totally true because we all have a life and we have a Leo sky in our chart. Like I'm Aquarius rising. So Leo is my 7th house of marriage, right? Or committed long-term love, for example. So, or audience marketplace, there's lots of meanings for the 7th house. And I'll be releasing something there because it's a south node eclipse, probably the way I do my business online. And there's a change coming for me. So I can prepare for that. But say I was a leader and I was a Leo. Does anyone know a Leo leader? How about the ascendant of Donald Trump at 29 degrees of Leo? That's not a good eclipse for a world leader who happens to be connected to the Leo archetype. So we can see that leaders and celebrities with strong Leo placements are going to go through a massive change. And that's going to pull like the plug on something, like drain the bathtub or flush the toilet because it's a south node eclipse. Something needs to leave. And if you're a leader, you will lose power. So that is a portent of a loss of power for Donald Trump. Now, I'm not going to do world astrology. I'm trying to teach you how to do your own life here, but you'll probably see something happen in his life this summer, probably an illness or a need to step down from power. That's probably what that is. Now, if you're an Aquarius, if you're a Leo, these are what we call like the fixed signs, and you're going to feel it. Or if you're a Taurus or a Scorpio, fixed signs, and you create a medicine wheel cross to the energies of the story, opposite or angular. So are you on the north, south, east, or west of this? Renee, I love that one. Then you're going to have major changes in your life compared to the other signs. You're in the thick of the wheel of fortune turning. And so understand that the first turnings begin to be felt in February on the eclipse. It will occur and add about a year. All eclipses take time to unfold. It will be a solar eclipse. It will take a year on February 17th to roll out. It's also a complicated eclipse, so I'm not going to go into it because the node hasn't moved yet into Aquarius. But it will take time, but there will be major changes in the lives of the fixed signs connected to that eclipse. And if you are aware of the meaning of your houses and you know where your whole sign pie slice of Aquarius falls in your sky relative to your natal chart, then you can also meaning make from that, right? If you were a Libra rising, then Aquarius is your 5th whole sign house, or Libra sun, it's your derived 5th whole sign house of children, romance, creativity, and entrepreneurship. And you know that new beginnings and changes are going to start unfolding here for you, beginning this year and all through next year. And the Leo folk in the chart too, you might be a Leo and directly experiencing this letting go, releasing eclipse on your sun, your career purpose, moon, home, and emotions, ascendant, your character in the simulation, your avatar. But you might also just have Leo somewhere in your chart, right? And sitting in a house somewhere for an Aries sun or rising, for example, that's your 5th house of romance, children, creativity, entrepreneurship, major changes there. So it's just understanding what those places are and comparing the vibe to 2008 and 2009, both calendar years, and also 89 to 1991, both calendar years, like all that time frame. 3 years actually for that one. It dribbled out. It was August of 89 to July of 91. It was a longer span of time. And so understanding your positions of your which house it's in relative to your sun or your rising most accurate gives you some understanding of what may occur this time around. So, like when I think of 2008 and 9 as from an Aries perspective, as an Aries sun, and think about that eclipse cycle with the Leo fifth house of, romance. That was when I met a man that Renee knows, Fergus, and we got married and we spent almost a decade together. And that was the beginning of a romantic story, right? Because my romance house was activated. And 89 to 91, I gave birth to my first child, and the fifth house is house of children. So you can look at these patterns in your life and you can see how they're likely to play out again. I'm currently single, so maybe I'll meet a partner in this eclipse cycle from my Aries perspective. And even from my Aquarius perspective, it's happening in my seventh house of committed love, Leo. So there's stories I can make about that. So I'm hoping you guys can make stories up and anticipate this eclipse cycle, which will bring change. That's what it does, just brings change, this destined or fated. And one more thing about eclipse cycles is that you've got no steering wheel. It's like no one imagines when you get on the roller coaster or the Ferris wheel that you have any control of the ride. I have to say that although I believe in agency and divine co-creation, eclipses signify parts of our life that are hardwired. The algorithmic code is likely not to be changeable. Our soul has said, I want to experiencing these stories, right? I want to experience marrying a guy named Fergus. I want to experience whatever these eclipses bring, birthing my first child. And they're not negotiable, non-negotiable, destined, fated storylines. Unless you're Jesus or Buddha and you've transcended completely the matrix, these eclipses will have destined impact, fated impact, call it what you will. Okay. So there's a new story, and the way I describe the energies, like Leo, Aquarius, whatever, the vibe will unfold for a year and a half. So you're not out of the woods until the end of 27 with those change cycles unfolding in your chart and in your life. All right, now, number 4. I think I might be on time today. It's almost a miracle for me. Uranus is a god of electric, unexpected, shocking change, disruption, sometimes innovative, inventive stuff, divine downloads through the pineal gland, aha, of moments of eureka, coming up with a new idea, whatever. So we don't mind Uranus. He has good and bad features. He's a sky god. He's most connected to the archetype of the tarot in the tarot world for you tarot readers. The lightning bolt, the tower, the disruption, it's all good because something new needs to come forth. So with the understanding of that, we're going to talk that Uranus, the sky god, is moving through Gemini starting this year for full-time occupation of the Gemini sky for 7 years. This is going to be very important because he's just finishing since 2018 occupation of the Taurus sky for 7 years, 7, 8 bleeds out. And that means that the Tauruses can breathe a sigh of relief, all you Taurus sun, moon rising people or whatever, or me, Aquarius rising. Taurus is my 4th house of home, property, land, and real estate. And I've moved so many times since 2018. I want to shake my head because I've been disrupted in my domicile. 4th house is home. But it's also possible, though, for the Tauruses to look back gratefully and think about how the changes were the electric cattle prod charge of a change that happened through their sign is opening them up to a more deep and true way of being in the world, because it's not like it's for nothing. It's for something, right? It's happening in your chart to change you wherever it goes. If you were a Leo rising, Taurus is your 10th house of career, and all of that disruption, shock, change, unexpected redirections have been happening there. Donald Trump had this electric charge to his 10th house since 2018. And he lost a presidency and he regained a presidency. His whole career has been extremely erratic. And that would be examples of that. So don't think about it as looking back for you guys, especially the Taurus folk, as having been a hardship, but a curriculum of going with the flow and surrendering. Moving on, though, we move into this next story, which is Gemini, an air sign. And Uranus is going to bring us AI and alien interfaces. We're going to meet the aliens. Trust me on this. By the end of 27, for sure, we know that there are non-human intelligences that are probably either interdimensional or off-planet, extraterrestrial. That's a very much also a technology and transportation thing, new inventions and outside the box technology and AI and transportation devices that are going to shake us up and shock us. It's also not good for the United States going to war, but I'm not going to do world astrology. They go to war or civil war every time Uranus goes through Gemini. Now, in your own life, however, you have one place that Gemini represents in your chart, right? One whole sign house, as we would say. And so this is where you're going to have electric change and all kinds of unexpected and exciting and maybe exhilarating shifts. And depends, obviously, if you're a Gemini, sun or moon or rising. These are intimate placements in your chart. Gemini moon's massive disruption of where you live. Moon is home. And Gemini sun, career changes. Gemini moon, Gemini rising, identity shifts. Like you're not going to be the same person ever again. You're going to have a reinvention of self. So those signs get a lot of the jolt, right, of change over 7 years, but it starts this year, and it's going to enter into a full-time occupation of the sign of Gemini, the 26th of April. Now, hang on, because yes, I remember it. July 7th of 2025 to November 7th, Uranus tested the waters of Gemini. So a lot of us felt the beginning of that energy, like almost a preview of the energy. So you might go back and compare that note. Again, what signs are most impacted will be signs that are angular to it, like the cross that I talked about. So you Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius people, sun, moon, and rising, will really feel like the wheel of your life changing through the energy of Gemini, Uranian change, right? So it depends on your looking at your charts clearly and squarely to understand that. For example, if you were a Sag rising or sun, it's going to be a disruptive change in your marriage house. Holy man, like you guys go polyamory, marriage sabbaticals, meeting some new types of long-term partners you've never been ever thinking aren't your type, right? Outside the box, coloring outside the lines of relationship rules that you always held to all of your life. That's an example, right? And for every one, we all have one house where this is happening. So I'm Aquarius rising. So then I have to look to my Gemini 5th house that is going to activate changes in romance and relationship to my children. These are 5th house stories, creativity, art, entrepreneurial shifts that are dramatic, exciting, and unexpected. So again, knowing your chart is helpful on these stories, but you don't really have a comparison unless you were alive in 1944, 45, add 7 years. Some of you may have been a child, but for most of us, it's a new story that we have to take notes and see what happens. There's no way to compare this to anything else. And so if I remember correctly, there's sometimes people like the flow, right? So the Libra, Aquarius, Geminis, or Libra, Aquarius are going to get a lot of flow, and it's going to be change that they actually like. And I think Renee's got a Libra sun, yes. And so she's going to enjoy the ride. She'll be like, this is a lot of fun. This is change is really exciting. And for a Libra sun, it's going to be in her house of publications. And a lot of us know she's got a book coming out. So her book publishing success and excitement could be really cool for her. So this is where you need to learn some astrology. So I do teach classes in astrology, Sky Reader, intro basic. Come join me this summer. I'm doing summer school instead of fall. All right, next, last, number 5. Finally, I'm going to keep on time today. And I can take questions if you guys want afterwards. Number 5 is Jupiter is a greater benefic. So I want you to think of your favorite archetype of goodness, like a fairy godmother father, or Santa Claus with presents at Christmas, or guru of goodness, teacher of goodness. Jupiter represents protective energy as well. And technically, Jupiter's gravitational field is partly responsible for keeping the asteroid belt between a bunch of space rubble between Mars and Jupiter from falling towards the sun and perhaps colliding with Earth. So he's a protector of us. So the archetype of wealth, abundance, family, fertility, growth, expansion, goodness, wisdom, truth, and knowledge, hope, faith, and optimism are Jupiterian energy. So Jupiter also just expands what he touches. Like everything that he touches gets bigger. All righty. So and he's moving into Leo on June 30th this year, and he'll be there till the 3rd week of July, 2027. If you're a Leo rising, in particular, and Jupiter's moving through your sign, you will gain weight. You will expand your girth, or you could put on muscle because you want to expand the body, or you could be fertile and have a baby and expand your belly. So a lot of times we always go, oh, we don't want to put on weight. And then Jupiter goes through our first house and we put the weight on no matter what. We lose it when he leaves. Just be aware of a very cartoonishly true example of expansion, what he touches, right? Now, when Jupiter is in Leo, he's going to be activating for the world changes in leaders and powerful leadership people. Whatever they will be, we'll find out. Time will tell. you're not a Leonine king. You're not a king of anything. You're a human being. So where the Leo sky falls in your chart will be where Jupiter wants to bless you. Just think Jupiter's blessings, keyword, right? So Jupiter will move through my 5th house of children from the perspective of my solar chart, my sun in Aries. I have 2 children, but one of them is actively trying to make a baby with his wife. Jupiter rules children in the house of my children. It means my child will have a child, very literal translation, but I also could expand in my love life or something. So 5th house is love life. If you are a Leo, if you are an Aquarius, you're going to have a lot of life change. You're going to hit that turning wheel, and Scorpio and Taurus focus well. But through Jupiter's blessings, not through hardship. Opportunity and luck are also Jupiter's storylines. We all have a Leo whole sign house in our sky, and wherever that falls is where the luck is falling. Just count your lucky stars that Jupiter is moving through Leo, but he only does it every 12 years. So we get to do a little cycle pattern recognition and cycle repetition to help you vibe into how it felt last time and the time before that. For example, in July of 2014 to August of 2015, Jupiter moved through Leo. What changes occurred in your life connected to the whole sign Leo sky in your chart? And also in August of 2002 to August of 2003, Jupiter moved through Leo. What changes occurred in your life relative to your Leo sky, one of your 12 pie slices? And you'll be able to make comparisons. It's useful to make comparisons. If I think of my own life, because I'm a Aquarius rising and I know Leo is my marketplace, my audience, my clients, my customers, my marriage partners and business partnerships and all of that, I probably can go back and rub my head and think about what happened back then. And it's an interesting path for me because both of those times corresponded to the ends of major relationships. But I shouldn't be surprised because the South Node in Leo means letting go and surrendering. So those were the incipient beginnings of separations from 2 separate marriages. Now I'm single this time around, so I can't separate from a marriage partner. So now I could get something new like South Node, destined, fated, past life partner, right? So want you guys to go back and compare notes because then you have more of a quality of expectation that might be reasonable about how it might play out. Nothing is ever the same twice. There's all kinds of other stories going on in the sky that complement this, but the base rock core of it, the scaffold of it will be similar based on the meaning of the houses through which Aquarius and Leo and the energy of Jupiter's activating. So Jupiter and Leo activating Aquarius across the way, square to Taurus and Scorpio. But every sign gets implicated. Every sign experiences it. Anyone with a Sag or Leo or Aries placement, sun, moon, or rising will find this to be mostly auspicious and positive, and they'll be happy that it's happening because you're getting fire flow to you in this regard. That might be a little bit of sophisticated astrology. If you're new, don't feel overwhelmed, right? But if you're already in the intermediate level, then hopefully some of this will get you eye on the five targets of the year. There's lots going on, but to me, these are probably the most important.